Hello and welcome to the Vancouver Real Estate blog. I'm Wilfred.
And I'm Amira.
And today we have a very special guest, Mr. David from Inspect Canada.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
It's great having you. Yeah. And so Inspect Canada is one of the best, if not the best, in the province. And I'll let you, David, talk a bit more about Inspect Canada.
Yeah, I don't know if we're the best out there, but we try to do a good job. I mean, our goal is to get a review after the inspection. That's all we work for. I mean, a lot of people work for money. We work for relationships and reviews. That's all we do. So that's why at this point we are the highest rated home inspection company, home and commercial I should say, because we're doing a lot of commercial as well, in the province. So we have roughly about 965 five-star reviews, just a couple one-stars. And our goal is to make sure that if there's a problem with the clients after the fact, that we address it right away. So it's to be understood that once in a while we may miss something, like every inspector's out there, but if there's a problem, we want to make sure that it's been taken care of and that the client's happy. We actually have two policies around that. One is if we miss it, we fix it. So if the client's like, hey, how come you didn't notice this in the report? And we're like, well, instead of finding excuses, there was stuff in front of it, wasn't like this when I was there, that never makes nobody happy. So we'll go there and we'll happily fix it for them. But we're the only company in the province that offers a buyback guarantee. So after all our inspections includes a buyback guarantee. It's good for 90 days after the clients take possession. So if they start finding items and they're like, man, if I knew this, I wouldn't buy this house, and they're not happy. And so we have this guarantee for them that if they're not happy, we'll buy it back for 100% of what they paid. Have you guys ever heard anything like this? It is huge. It's huge. And every time people ask us, so have you had people using it, right? And actually, well, we had one that initiated it and never went through it, but it's part of all our inspection. Basically, how it works, it's an insurance that we have. We're not personally buying it; it's our insurance. Every time we do an inspection, we pull a little bit of money in that insurance, and if something one day happens, and it will very most likely happen, then it's there. It's there for our clients. We do also have huge insurance. Every home inspectors in the province have to have, I believe, one or at least $2 million in insurance. We have $2 million. So if anything happened, our client is taken care of 100%.
Amazing.
So we've been around since roughly 2017 or so. But in those years, I was also running a construction company at the same time, hoping to do some inspections on the side, hoping for the best. But when you're not focused 100% on it, it really doesn't go anywhere. And really, in order to be a really good inspector, you got to do it full time. If you're just there on the weekend, you don't get a routine. You start missing stuff. You're scared because you don't do it very often. You're afraid of missing stuff. You're not really good at talking with clients. So at one point, I burned the ship. I sold all the tools. I closed the construction company, and I went full blast into home inspection. And here we are today in this not so great market. Yet we're still out there. We're trying to do our best.
Right. There's always opportunities, right?
Yeah, and that's why. And so what happened? I mean, you all know that the real estate industry is not at its best right now, and and for us, it hasn't been good for a while because when COVID started, it really boosted the sales right there, right? This was gold. It was magic. Number one problem was finding more inspectors. We were just like really working 2-3 inspections a day, 7 days a week, coming back late at night. It was tough and everything else, but at least we were making money. And then roughly last November 2021, that's when inventory ran out. Basically, there were no inventory, huge lineups of people waiting for these few houses for sale. Price were going massively over asking. And basically, they were not putting subject to inspection. So the home inspection industry then really dropped big. I would say almost like 80%, and not slowly, like real quick. Boom! What's going on, right? And we're like, holy crap, what are we gonna do with this? So then we struggled, and then roughly around April 2022, it became closer to a balanced market, at least in the detached house. Not quite of a buyer's market, but then it went into a buyer's market. But at that time, inventory was also extremely low. Even though every homes at that point were getting inspected, there was just not a whole lot of work. And to tell you the truth, it hasn't really much picked up since then. We started getting interest rate after the others, and then we just jumped into December and January, which are historically very slow months. But I would have to think that this December and this January historically will be one of the slowest out there. And then this year is going to be tough too. So, and you know, when it's tough, you got to start doing things differently because it just doesn't work the same, right? So we started doing mold inspections. So we certified the guys. We bought some equipment. And I have it here. I'll talk to you a little bit about it a little bit later. And then something that we decided to do that there's really no other inspections company doing out there, and I found that that was fairly crazy, is inspecting the drains around the house. We get a massive amount of water here, as we all know. I mean, Chilliwack got flooded massively, and I'm sure this winter other stuff will happen. Drains around the house are extremely important. They were really never included as part of a home inspection. It's not even in the standard of practice. Like, it's on the ground, can't see it. Well, we do have a $12,000 camera. We put a camera in there. It films the entire process. We go through, we can go all the way around the house, make sure that those drains are not collapsed, misaligned, or full of debris or anything like that. Because everybody that's getting water in their basement, somehow, it's because their drain is not working. Because if the drain's working, there is no water to go anywhere, right? So, and when we're doing this, we're doing also the sanitary line, the line for the dirty water, shower, toilets, and all that, that goes from the house to the city. So a lot of older homes will have cast iron, which is still okay, but a lot of them has rusted so badly in the inside that there's barely a hole left in there. So we can do that as well. So we started offering other services. We do also asbestos testings if they're afraid that there might be some asbestos in their home, and they want to make sure they get it sampled. So we can take samples, send it to the lab, get them results for that. We can do radon gas that you guys have probably lately learned about, right? We do all kinds of different stuff. And this year, our focus is going to be not mostly, but we'll be focusing hard on commercial. So we've been doing a lot of commercials. I don't know if you guys have met Mike in our team. We got him certified. There's a course in Ontario. We sent him there. He's been doing a lot of them, and we've had a lot of happy clients with that. So that will be our focus this year, more commercial. It's a great field, and there's not a whole lot of competition, and it's not so attached to how the market goes. It's not so much related to the real estate industry. It kind of stay either steady, and so that's kind of the way we're going to go. So that's a little bit more information you wanted to hear, I'm sure, right?
No, that's great. I'm happy to hear that you're innovating and getting into a wider approach, commercial including, because like you mentioned, it's not influenced by the market.
There's not as much business either, but if you get a little bit of the market share, at least you can stay busy, keep your guy busy, and it's a very interesting field too. I mean, we love doing home inspections, but home inspections, after a while, it does repeat a lot. You know, things are not the same as they used to be like 50 years ago, but they're not a whole lot different. You know, there hasn't been a whole lot of innovations in home construction in a very long time. But in commercial, you know, one day you'll do a dental office, the other day you do restaurants, another day you'll do some office space, or another time a warehouse, or maybe just a flat roof somewhere. So it's always different. You always constantly have to learn.
Right.
But it all goes back as well. We can do drain inspections for these commercial properties, or do some asbestos testing or mold testing. We can do indoor air quality tests and all that kind of stuff as well. So a lot of the certifications and the tools that we already have can be used in the commercial as well.
Awesome. So we had a few questions, and I know you brought some of the tools with you. And Amira, why don't you get us started with the questions that we had?
Okay. I think we wanted to start off very simple for you. I'm sure you hear these a lot, but just for first-time home buyers, it can be really nerve-wracking.
Of course, yeah.
You don't know what to expect, and when someone mentions the home inspection, I think all these images come into your mind of what that might entail. Can you maybe share with us a little bit about what someone can expect when they're a first-time home buyer, they're purchasing their first home, from start to finish, what's the timeline like? What is the cost associated with it and all of that? So
the first thing that they need to do is to book the inspection. We have Crystal in the office. She's got experience about the home inspection industry, real estate industry, she understands the whole process. So if they have any kind of general questions, she can answer all of those questions for her. Most of the pricing for home inspectors is based on the square footage of the house. Some other inspectors will also charge a little bit more if it's an older home. We don't personally, but let's say a 2,500 square foot home will be roughly, let's say $600, and maybe a 5,000 to 6,000 square foot home will be closer to the $900 kind of range. And then if there's a coach home, then it's a little bit extra. If there's a suite, it's a little bit extra. Some people do charge extra for crawl space that we don't, but there's companies that'll do that as well. So, and a regular size home, let's say in the 2,500 square foot range to 3,000, let's say, it roughly takes about 3 hours for the inspections. And for us, we want to do, our presentation takes a little bit longer than most companies. We go through every rooms with the clients. It's an educational session, so it roughly takes about an hour on a home. We'll go through the outside, we'll show them where the gas meter is, what to do in case of emergency. We're going to go talk to them about their utility room, talk about their furnace, when they need to replace their filters, what they need to do with their ventilation system and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big educational session. The goal there is also to build a relationship with this client. We want to make sure that if there's a problem later, that they don't call you and complain about it, that they call us directly. And also, we want to be their personal consultant too after the fact. So if they're like, do you think we can take this wall out, or do you know somebody who could fix this or do it? So we want to make sure that we have this relationship with the client so that they can either call us whenever they have a question, and that they also give us a review if they had a good service.
Yeah.
So roughly it's 3 hours for the inspection, about an hour for the presentation. The report is done right after the fact. The report includes 100% of everything that is talked during this presentation, but it shows pictures, locations of everything. And it's also designed in an urgency kind of way. So it's a color-coded kind of system. So red would be stuff that is either a bad safety items, maybe railings that are falling apart, things like that, or something that may cost a lot of money, like your roof's getting very old or something like that. So that'll be a red. An orange is mostly stuff that you need to get to pretty quickly. It's not going to be as expensive, and it's most likely not something too dangerous, but you should get to it. Like, so for example, if their hot water tank is 15 years old and they're kind of designed for about 10 to 12, then we'll make that an orange if it's still working. You know, sometimes they work for 20 years, we never know, right? And then we have the blues. The blues are mostly recommendations. Yeah, you know, it's just small items, things that are doors that don't latch properly, really things that really doesn't matter, but we still want to make sure that the client knows about it, and we don't want it to be a surprise when they move in there. But and then so they can go through all this, and then if they want, they can just try to either renegotiate, or maybe at least they'll know what the house is all about. And so that's for a regular size home. For a town home, it's roughly all the same thing, but it's roughly about 2 hours for the inspection and still roughly half an hour to 45 minutes for presentation. For a condo, it's roughly about an hour for the condo itself. Now, if they want to do the amenities and the parking and all that, let's say it adds another 20 minutes to half an hour, and it's roughly about half an hour for presentation. So in and out, it's roughly about 2 hours on a condo. And like I mentioned, the report is done right away. And we can accept either payment at the time of booking, or the inspector can take payment on site as well. Okay. So does that answer the questions you had right there?
I actually had one come up for you as well while we were chatting, is you mentioned amenities.
Yeah.
Do you guys go and do that free of charge, or is there an extra charge?
Yeah, it's free of charge, and it's really just to bring them some peace of mind. But in reality, when you look at it, anything that is common area in a building, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. If we go in a mechanical room and something's leaking in there, it's not like they'll do anything about it. Yeah. Most of these mechanical room will have a company that goes there on a monthly basis, does their inspection. It's a requirement of a strata. So if it's leaking, there'll be a guy coming here in 2 weeks, they'll fix this up. So to me, in reality, I think eventually they will stop doing this, home inspectors. They do it now, and also most home inspectors are not very qualified to do this because those are commercial units. So when you go into these, the ventilation room or the electrical room, and we're not talking about an electrical panel here, it's a whole electrical room. It's way advanced and it's dangerous. We can't open nothing in there and they wouldn't let us do it anyways. So we just go in there, we take some pictures, we want to make sure, the idea is to really take a look at what the overall view of all this is. Are they taking care of this stuff? Is it dirty in there? We want to know the type of strata you're dealing with. There's people that have a full-time caretaker that everything is always top-notch everywhere, and other places they got this old volunteer guy who doesn't really want to do anything, and everything is kind of falling apart and things all over the place. And I think it's important for a client to know what they're getting into, especially in stratas, because we hear stories all the time. People, they ask a strata and they never get replies, and other places where they're all on top of everything all the time. So yeah, we do the amenities. Well, if we go in the gym room or if we go in the in the pool room, or there's not a whole lot in there. Even if the carpet is ripped off, are you not going to move in there because of that? So it's really just an overview. How is this place looking? Does it smell in here? Is it clean and all that? And it's a little bit the same thing that we do on the exterior of a building, of a strata building. Obviously, if there's a little nick on the roof over here, the guy at the end will still pay for it. It's all part of a common group, right? But when we go around a building, if I see that there's a piece of shingle that's kind of crooked on the outside, I'm not even putting this in the report. It's irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. But if I go around and I see all these retaining walls, the wood retaining walls, they're all kind of falling apart, and I'm thinking this is expensive to fix that stuff. I would want my clients to know about this. There will be something coming up on that. Make sure you check on it. If I go on one side of the building and they rip one side off because probably something was leaking or whatever it is, I would want them to know about it. It also allows me to see if all the windows being replaced, if the balconies are in good shape, what kind of vegetation's going on there. Is the vegetation taking over all the decks in the back or that kind of stuff. So it's really, again, an overview of what's going on over there. There'd be no reason for someone not to buy a place because the sidewalk's cracked, but it's good to know, are all the sidewalk cracks and why are they not getting repaired? And, is it a trip hazard? Is someone going to hurt themselves and sue the strata? It's really just an overview. But we will include the bigger item in there. But if one railing's a little shaky or anything like this, I'm not touching this, no.
Well, and I think it's a good opportunity for buyers, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and don't know this, just to really look through the depreciation engineering reports, and then if you're bringing stuff like that up, to kind of do a quick comparison and say, hey, was this in there? Are they being proactive?
That's a really good point you're bringing up there, because sometimes you'll look at a depreciation report and it's from 2014 or something like that, right? And it says in 2021 they were going to do all the decks, and I'm going there and it's 2022 and the decks looks pretty old to me. So I'm thinking, okay, so a depreciation report, you do have to verify them, because often maybe 2021 hits and they're like, the balconies are fine, there's no reason to replace it, but that special levy's coming up in 2-3 years from now, right? So yeah, exactly, those are the type of things, because sometimes I look at the depreciation report and it's like, oh, it looks like all the windows being replaced and all this has been done, the exterior's been redone. You go there and really nothing's been done, right? So it's a good point to go around and check all these things like that.
Yeah, well, I really like how you guys run your inspections, because I actually was with some buyers about a couple months ago, and it's funny you mentioned Mike, because he, I think, was actually the same person that was there at the time. I don't know the last name, so maybe a different person. But
Mike, he's great.
But he went through everything with the buyers and actually was showing them, how you can check if the fan's working in the bathroom, and just... It's
an educational session, right? We want to make sure that, that the client knows what we've looked for and what we found and why we looked for these items, and if we found something, why it's like that. They have so many questions, and most people, they don't know a whole lot about construction and how places are made, how they're designed, and why this is like that and all that, right? So it's an opportunity for us to really give them information about all this so that they feel a lot more confident about their purchase, or if they decide to walk out.
Yeah, and on that note, what are some of the common questions that the first-time home buyers or any buyers have for you at Inspect Canada?
Yeah, so I mean, people, their concerns really about just a few things. They're concerns about pest activity, and they're concerned about mold. Like those are the two big ones there. And there's people who'll be like perfectly fine with this, but there's people who you can't, they'll just walk right out, and that happens all the time, and it's very unfortunate. For example, pest activity. There's really nothing to it. In most places, there's no infestation. You just have some pest activity. That's all it is. You just close up some holes and get rid of whatever's in there, and that's the end of it right there. And whoever's buying whatever property today that has no pest activity, it could start tomorrow. So it's not like it's a disease you got in your house. There, just if you like the house, most people buy places because they like the area. They're close to friends, family, schools, church, whatever they like, right? So walking away because of something that could happen no matter where you're gonna move, it's ridiculous, but it does happen all the time, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But we try to let them know. I mean, it is our goal to explain to the client what they can do about it, but ultimately it's their own decision, and we're not there to sell this place. They buy it or they don't. It's irrelevant. We're a third party. We're unbiased. We're just there to tell them what the picture is, what this is all about. And if you want to do something about it, I'll give you some recommendations. We'll tell you who can fix it for you if you want. We have videos on our YouTube channels. I'll show you on how to fix it yourself. Mold. It's not, it's a little bit over. I shouldn't say that. Some people will not like to hear that, but it's not as bad as people think, because it's a condition of too much humidity and lack of ventilation. So you really fix either of these two things, and that'll be history. Most mold we find in houses are lifestyle related. People that either they're or maybe they have no fan in the bathrooms, old houses, right? Or recircling fan in the kitchen. There's cultures out there that loves the humidifiers. They have them in every room. It's just a lot. Most people, if you're not doing the exact same lifestyle, most mold, unless it's water coming in from the outside, which you could fix. If it's just mold because of indoor humidity, you just have to fix a humidity problem. Open windows, run fans, things like this, and whatever is there, you just remedy it. You either cut it off or just repaint over it and just get rid of it. But there are people who'll see this, and no matter what you tell them, they're not going. We have kids, whatever it is, they always talk about the kids, right? But it's true. I mean, you don't want to move in a house with mold, but it's an easy problem to fix. Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's a big misconception, which I'm sure you see all the time, is people go into their home inspection, especially if they're a first-time purchaser, and they assume that having anything come up is a bad thing. And obviously, I mean, you don't want extra expenses, but it's an opportunity to negotiate it, and typically sellers are very reasonable.
But it is also, part of what we do when we talk to clients to say, look, sometimes I find myself pointing out little things that makes no sense, but sometimes it's a big deal to people, and you don't quite realize it. And so I normally tell them, I say, look, a lot of the stuff that I'll tell you today is really no big deal. But I want to make sure that when you sell, if the other guy points it out, I don't want it to be a surprise to you. So don't worry about it. And it's also very important for us to make sure that they understand that there are no perfect homes out there, and especially not the brand new ones. They're definitely not perfect, and they definitely need to be inspected. Yeah. But again, asbestos, right? There's so much uneducation around this. Like people, they think that it'll kill them. When really, as long as you don't rub it in and you don't sniff it out all day, you're not gonna get much out of that. And really, if anybody's concerned, all they have to do, go on asbestos.com. It's a full website all about it, and they'll tell you that the only people who really had any problem with that were those who worked in the environment for a long period of time, and their family members, because they brought their clothes home and stuff like that. So having, there's any homes that is built prior to mid-1990 has a chance of having asbestos, and the older they are, the more they have. So, but again, it is what it is. It's just part of home ownership. It's like lead paint. There's other stuff like that too. It comes with age, right?
Well, David, you have so much knowledge, and this wraps it up for part 1 of our video. So stay tuned for part 2. and where we will uncover a lot more about home inspection.
Awesome.
Thanks, David, for joining us on
Thanks
this
to you
one.
guys.
And yes, we'll see you soon.
Okay.